Welcome back to the Nullified Take channel on YouTube, where we've got the TNT takes for you on Survivor 46, episode 6. That's right, we're back. I'm your host, Chris, and with me today is my fellow co-host, Kahuna, and also Jake. It's been a while, Jake, since I've actually spoken to you about Survivor. I feel like you've missed the last couple of recaps that we've done. How's things been? How are you enjoying the season so far?
Well, I think since the last time we talked about the show, it's definitely gotten a lot better for all of us. All of our opinions on the show have definitely gotten better. And it's been a while, hasn't it? Sickness and life have gotten in the way, but I'm glad, especially in this portion of the season, to be talking about it.
Yeah, 100%. I think I said it last week as well. When we get into the merge portion of the game, we now, what is the weakest part of Survivor in the new age is the pre-merge. It's the most boring phase. It's the most predictable phase. We've got the 6 people tribes, and that makes it very easy to know who's on the outs and who's probably going to go home. And it's just a lot of things that happen in the pre-merge that I find less interesting. But with the merge, obviously I think it was like 13 people together well, I guess it's not fully merged until you win the challenge, but at least there's a lot more different things that we can talk about when it comes to votes, when it comes to strategizing. I thought the game was more interesting this week for sure. And Kahuna, it had a low bar for us to like it because, I mean, we had the pre-merge, we had a lot of Banu stuff happening. And yeah, like I feel like it was always going to go up moving into the merge in my mind.
I will give that. Like the post Banu era is definitely better than the Banu torture that we lived through. But yeah, like I'm excited. Like I did have fun this episode. And then if I'm gonna be the negative Nancy, which I don't know, I'm gonna do it quick, but then I'll focus on the positive. I felt a little bit of bitter taste in my mouth that we went through half the season to get to the point where it's actually kind of becoming interesting a little bit. And like you said, the bar is low. Like I don't think like the vote we saw, some of the strategies and ideas we saw was still I'm still a bit down, but I'm coming up. I'm on the up. I'm like getting into it. We saw a lot from people this episode that I was like, oh, they're actually interesting. Whether it was good or not is another story, but that's what made so much Survivor great, is even when it's not bad, it's fascinating, it's interesting, it's fun to watch. And I feel like we're getting that now. And not just from the perspective of hate watching or watching something interesting but shitting on it. Like we're not like, now it's actually fun and we're seeing some stuff eventuate, which is really good, but it took 6 episodes. Like, come on, like 6 episodes, half a season to get to the point where we're like, this was kind of interesting. So I'm getting in now. I'm hoping Jeff will bring me home strong with the last half of the season.
Yeah, thanks for that, Kunan. I do agree with you. It's taken a while to get to this point, and but luckily we're there now. And again, if you're like me, when it comes to watching a TV show, like I bounce out normally within the first 3 episodes if I'm not interested. I'm like, it has to capture me from the start because there's so much competition out there right now. I mean, we're living in the best era of reality TV where every single channel that you can think of has got a version. I mean, we've even got Deal or No Deal Island right now, which I haven't been watching, but there's so much. Yeah, we're spoiled for choice today when it comes to reality TV. So I totally get where you're coming from. Chris, welcome to the live, saying it was a long week at work, but I woke up from a nap to get to be in the live. Yeah, I think all of us, like I got smashed this week as well, but always happy to talk about Survivor with everybody here in the live. And thank you, Chris, for joining us. Gabe saying this episode was pretty boring, but at least can discuss and analyze the gameplay choices, which is interesting. I do agree. Like the gameplay is probably the most interesting part of the episode, and that is actually why I've enjoyed it, because we finally saw some different conversations happening. We can kind of debate if some of the moves that were made throughout this episode was good or not. I just feel like there's more to talk about compared to some of the previous episodes that we've had. Danica not driving for a change, ready for the live. Welcome, Danica. Victoria, welcome to the live as well. And we've got Kiwi here. We've got Georgette. Things are looking up for this cast. Totally agree, Georgette. I think that there is more positive now that we are getting into the merge. Hopefully we get to know the characters a little bit better. I felt really bad for the person who did end up going home, but we'll talk about that throughout this podcast as well. I don't know if I said hello to Dolores, but Dolores, welcome to the live as well. And let's get into it. Straight in the beginning of this episode, Jake, we start off at the Green Tribe, the Sega Tribe. They've just voted out and blindsided Gem, which was a bit of a shock. Like, I mean, we saw enough as to why she got voted out last week, because she was playing a pretty aggressive game. But ultimately, Survivor likes to keep us in the dark in regards to what the true plan is or what the actual conversations are that is happening when somebody goes home. And Gem does go home. So Mariah was blindsided just like us. And I felt like I lived through Mariah because I also had this blindside coming into this episode happen. And she's on the outs, and she has to make a big decision this episode in regards to, will she stay Sega strong or will she not stay Sega strong? They do a lot of good work to make her feel like she's part of the tribe here in the early stages. And clearly, even though she knew that this is the right thing for them to do, for some or other reason, she still felt like she had a home with Sega. Like, what's your analysis when it comes to Mariah? Because for someone that loved strategic players like Aubrey and that, like, I feel like you should know if you've been left out of the vote, like, you're not that important to this tribe.
For sure. I think that's the most obvious takeaway from this episode, is that she should have been more open about the fact that there was an obvious crack. The vote wasn't unanimous. The fact that Sega was able to convince her to go along with that farce was pretty crazy, especially given that they just ended up cannibalizing anyways. But I think it does show that Sega, I guess as a group, is pretty powerful, and there's a reason why Yanu and Nami wanted to split them up, because they are the vibe tribe, as they said. Like, they really are, just like chilling and like want to stay together. They genuinely like each other, and I think Mariah got caught up in that, and she took her eye off the prize, and I think that's what her mistake was. And we'll get into, tribal council, where she tries to sort of flip it on its head, but it just wasn't enough.
Yeah, totally agree. And Chris here says, warning to anyone watching, if you go on Survivor and someone asks you who your favorite player is, say the most random loser player you can think of.
I'm going to say it's Banu.
For me, it was Bobby John. Like, obviously, I mean, Bobby John was just such a great Survivor player that, the strategy and the competitiveness. Yep. Like, it's all about competition. It's all about winning. I know he didn't do a lot of winning in his first season, but I don't know how much strategy he really had to his game.
I think
yeah.
Oh, sorry. Jake? Go ahead.
I think that goes too far the other way. People are gonna like, this guy's an idiot. I don't want him on my team. You got to be subtle. You got to be like, I know the game, but I'm not like, I'm not picking the Aubreys. And if you came out and said Tony, people are going to be watching.
Chris. I like Danny. I would just use Danny. Like, no one hated Danny. Okay, so I feel like
there you go. Nice, inoffensive.
Okay, it sounds like you're a Guatemala fan.
I'm going to pick Bob.
Yeah.
Bob. Yeah. Like, that's inoffensive. No one's going to be like, you like Bob? Like, he was just this lovable old guy who won.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, Bob's inoffensive and fair. No one's going to be like, that's a bad choice. Well, it is kind of, if he's your favorite player, I guess. If you're strategic at all, like, you're picking smarter players. But I think to fit in this sweet spot, I like a Bob.
Yeah,
I'm just going to say, Chris, who's bringing who up this podcast? Okay, who's bringing who up this podcast? It's not from me. You go ahead, Jack.
Q's whole interaction with Mariah was pretty hilarious to me. I mean, You're just you're not allowed to say that your favorite player is somebody who was good at the game to him.
Yeah.
Like
Automatically you're a threat. You're a dangerous player.
It wasn't Aubrey. He saw it in the eyes. Like he
it
was
in
like,
her eyes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Those eyes, they'll get you.
Scared.
Yeah. Seriously, and it would be pretty brilliant if like Q really didn't think that like her saying that was that crazy, but if he was able to convince other people that it was, but he really did believe like, oh whoa, Aubrey's her favorite player. Like this is bad. Like she needs to go.
Can we just take a moment to appreciate the fact that Q didn't quit on us when we were fearful that he was going to quit at one point? Because Q was probably, in my opinion, the standout performer of this episode. Like,
totally.
by far. Like, I mean, the guy... the guy carried this episode, right? Immediately coming into the merge, he's got the plan of the 6 people. Everybody gets their tag along. He has the moment where he goes up to talk to Mariah and she's not on board. And now he's questioning Tim. So many little storylines. And one of the most fascinating things while we're talking about Q and Mariah was when Mariah came clear at the tribal council saying, I'm the Rift. I'm the person. And she's like, I'm in trouble. I need to come clean. And he's like, coaching her about how to play the game. Like Q can't help himself. He has to coach. He doesn't have Banu there to coach anymore. So now he's got to coach the girl who's on the way out at Tribal Council, Kuna. It was hilarious to see that Q just wants to be a coach, mate. Like I hope he gets that contract afterwards, to go coach somewhere.
I just realized with you guys being so infectiously positive, I must be on something, like in my coffee. I don't know if there's something in my drink, but Q this week pissed me off. I'm like, this guy is so intense. I'm like, settle down, man. Like I said last week, I said when he was doing the quitting, ruse, I was like, there's no way he's quitting now that he got some muffins. Now that he's, they want a challenge. He's like he's like back. And then he went like too much. He's like, I'm well in. I'm going to interrogate everyone. I'm going to he's coach. He's like playing, like he can't break out of the sports mode. He's telling people what to do. He he almost smacked him over the head. He's like, go tell Maria, like, what are you doing? Go get her. Like he's
saying like in front of Tevin. It was so funny. It was I loved it.
Why. Like, what would we? Exactly. What would we have talked about if Q didn't? He obviously. I'm not saying Q's playing this. Like, I think there's no way in hell Q's winning this game. I think he showed us enough in this episode to show us that he's not winning the game. But is he being entertaining and is he doing the most right now? 100%. And that is why I'm loving Q, because Q's giving me something to talk about. He's playing hard, and you can't hate him for that.
Q's going to cancel Christmas. I love that Q is just like, I don't know where he's from specifically, but I know it's somewhere south. He's just a good old boy, and he talks like Charles Barkley sometimes. But like some of the things that come out of his mouth, I'm like, Mariah's going to cancel Christmas. Like this guy, the Aubrey thing, the eye thing, and I'm like, Q, this is a problem with the small tribes, because if he had been in a bigger tribe and saw Mariah learning to jump, he would have been not a threat.
He would have been the one.
Not a threat at all.
He would have been the one.
Yeah, he would have got her jumping. He would have got her jumping. At least a 2-inch vertical increase from Q's, dedicated.
She would have been. If Q had a couple months, she'd be in the dunk contest in no time.
100%. I want to bring this up from Hello. Hello says Q bothered me with the Jess boot week. I feel bad for Jess, and Q got more like Abel, but I don't forget, and he can't get my heart. Obviously, he can't, because he's not playing for $1 million hearts. Like, he's playing to win the $1 million. Okay, like Q's not there to get people's hearts, and that's why I love him.
Banner's already got them all. That's why
he's got my heart by playing for the money. Scott here is saying, joining you live because the news is too depressing. Join us. Keep away from the news. We don't want you to be depressed over the weekend and getting into your weekend. You've got to be, we're even going to turn Kahuna's frown upside down by the end of this podcast by having some fun with some of the characters.
I'm good.
We already accomplished that.
Yeah.
Frank also says, I'm sorry Q got his ass handed to him by Mariah. She lapped Q in the midsection of the challenge. I would vote for her. I voted for that alone.
There was no jumping. It was ground. It was close to the ground. It was like lying on the ground. There's no jumping at all. That's why she could do it.
staying like stationary and let gravity do its work.
Guys, I need
actually
to
gave her superpower.
I need to point something out. Have you guys heard of the show Wipeout?
No, Wipeout. Oh yeah, Wipeout. Yeah,
Big
yeah.
red balls, man. Big red balls.
You know who was on Wipeout and won? Mariah.
What?
No ways.
That is
so
a
much
show.
jumping.
I know. Somebody posted this on Reddit, and I was like, "This is the craziest thing I've ever seen. How did you win Wipeout if you can't jump?" I haven't seen any clips. I haven't seen any clips of her actually competing on Wipeout, but that just defies logic. I mean, we saw her jumping. She can't jump.
This is insane.
Yeah.
I don't know if we're going to get blocked or anything, but we got to see this.
Two ambitious young women who work in male-dominated fields.
Oh, she was on Game Changer? She's on Game Changer. I love that show.
Wow.
Oh, no, not Game Changer. It was a Wipeout. Sorry.
I just want everyone to know that there's nothing
I saw the background.
Anything men can do, we can
That
do
is her.
better.
Yes, baby. Say it louder for the people in the back.
Anything men can do, we can do better.
Yeah, woo!
Go. Want to put up a
Down the patriarchy.
Not jumping.
I had one. Here's Mariah giving the hoop hopper a shot.
You got this.
Oh.
She definitely can't jump.
What?
Hey, can we start a Wipeout podcast?
She knows her worth.
We need to.
Mariah, the cheerleader, she's the best, hitting over the hurdles, putting away.
It would be nice if they weren't.
She's not even trying to jump. She's just like pushing her
Close
body
to the
over.
ground.
She won by not
Rolling.
jumping.
Yeah.
Crawls.
Oh my
Hey,
God.
hidden hurdles count too.
Are
See
we-
how tough it is for us to
Maybe
do?
they didn't
If
win.
it's not
Maybe I
one
read
thing,
that
it's
wrong. But I
another.
think I
Got to the
did.
end?
Like
At least-
how did that's all we
Nah.
saw, but how did she win by not actually clearing
Maybe
a
her-
single
maybe her-
obstacle?
Maybe her partner carried her. I don't know.
Gabe
Are you
with
sure
a hot take here. Are you sure it's not
Good
Liz?
question.
Because Liz
That's a
and
very good question.
Mariah look so much alike.
She didn't say
Um,
she's rich, though. She didn't say how rich she is, so it's probably not Liz.
Yeah. Was Mariah was Q right all along? Was Mariah really this mastermind out there that was like minimizing her threat level by pretending like she couldn't jump? This is brilliant.
That's like the greatest, like Charlie Chaplin, Jim Carrey, physical levels of comedy where you can fake not jumping like that. Holy
That's
crap!
crazy. I don't know.
Like, I don't
I don't know how I would do that. Yeah.
All right, I need to go back a little bit before we get too much into the what happened at the challenge. I know we went challenge heavy, but let's talk a little bit about Hunter. And one of the most interesting parts of the episode was when they finally find out that they're all going to be on the same beach. Everybody's coming to Nami's beach, and Hunter knows he's got a clock. He's like pretending he's happy. He runs off, goes and gets the clue, needs to come back, search for it by the steps, finds the key. What a crazy scene. And I just, Jake, want to take my hat off to, because we have been critical of the show for good reason, I will add, and I will continue to be critical about certain things about the show. But we also have to give props where we have to give props, right? The editing of this segment with him running away, the Soda and Venus like having an argument while he's trying to look for this idol, and the
So
music, everything just seemed perfect. This is when Survivor is right in the pocket where it needs to be when it comes to just creating captivating TV.
For sure. I mean, when you're able to now, especially even more so with the merge, having so many different people and not just having the episodes focus on one guy and his, struggle. When you're able to show all of the characters, and Hunter, showed us that he works hard to find these things. I mean, that was crazy. I mean, I don't know how much real time elapsed between them getting the note and them actually arriving, but I can't imagine that you had like much margin for error at all. Like, so that was really impressive, and
Like, it was
just
even
entertaining
while
as
he's
hell.
like while he's searching for it, you hear Soda in the background saying, "Oh wow, they're coming in fast! Like the boats are on the way."
Yeah,
while
the
he's
editing-
running
the
back,
editing
thinking,
That's
was
an
so-
audio edit.
That,
That's an audio
the
edit.
editing was super good though. It was super
It was
fun to
good.
watch. Yeah.
I was on the edge of my seat, and
They'd
I've
have to
seen
give
a
him
lot of
enough
people.
time, though, right? Like it has to.
You'd
Like
hope.
you can't go. You got 20 minutes. Like they blow up his game immediately. Like
Yeah.
I imagine there
They're
was
on
a
the
little bit of time.
walkie-talkies. They're on the walkie-talkies
yeah,
to
yeah.
the guy on the boat, being like, just take them for another couple of
Yeah,
laps
just
around
do another
the neighboring
Okay, wait.
island.
Hunter's having a bit of trouble finding the key. Just wait a second. Don't board him on the boat just yet.
They're like,
okay, you
here
found it?
comes Liz. Here comes
Yeah.
Liz. Ah!
Abort! Take him back!
Take him back. I bet you they're like on the walkie-talkies, like talking about it.
Yeah, especially for a guy like Hunter, who I'm sure they are rooting for, because he's just so likable,
Yeah, and it's interesting because I've been on the Hunter train for a while now. I've always said like Hunter's one of the players like I'm kind of shouting for, but I've noticed also online the little bits that I've now looked online. It seems like a lot of people are starting to jump on the Hunter bandwagon, and a lot of people are getting really behind him as one of the people that they would like to see go deep and win this game. But
Yeah.
I still have my eyes on Tevin. Like Tevin is getting just key moments that he's talking to the camera about, I'm going to welcome them in. I'm going to make them feel all at home. We're going to all talk about their dreams and how we all have these dreams we want to achieve to get to the end, So clearly just being shown as like someone that I think is going to continue to be a social threat. The only downside that I have on Tevin potentially is the fact that coming into the merge, he was so willing to just let go of one of his numbers early on. And I understand it. Like Venus did a lot. She probably did enough to be voted out this episode. But Tevin being willing to let a number go this quickly, in contrast to Tim, who was trying to save all of his numbers, Kuna, I'm a little bit worried for Tevin there. I don't know if the long-term strategy is there, but he's definitely getting an edit that keeps telling us, hey, Tevin is still in the game as well. Just keep focusing on him.
I don't think he ever saw Venus as a number, and he's getting a read on the fact like she's maybe one of the bluntest survivors we've seen as far as like all the subtlety of a brick just approaching people with strategy.
But she's like Parvati. She's like Parvati. Parvati also clearly didn't have any subtleties to her game. The comparison's been made.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to see the same level of gameplay from going forward. But yeah, like she's so full on. I'm wondering if Tevin's like, we haven't got her. Like even when we merge, she's going to immediately find other and if that's the fact, then yeah, like that's now someone with insight and info against you that will use that against you, because she said I've got no one. Like she immediately tried to do it, and I think that was pretty clear to like the fight with Soda. Like she's like, why aren't there's no chance that they thought we can get her back in like Sega did with Mariah, at least, or try to comfort her. They were like, there's no bringing her in here.
Very different scenarios happening. Two people on the outs, one tribe was willing and able to bring that person back in. The other one didn't even try. They just gave up on it.
Kiwi said, absolutely, Kuna. She's as subtle as a brick to the head. Let's read a couple more comments. Frank here says, Hunter, good job. Don't announce at camp. Let's all go idle hunting separately to clear the camp. Good strategy. Chris is saying, I wonder how production decided which tribe got which beware task. The difference between Jem taking measurements and Hunter sticking his fingers in the steps. Yep, definitely. Each one of the beware advantages was slightly different. I think the fact that they could have probably changed the clue, because at certain points they were like, you have to go back to get the next clue. So they probably changed it later on.
It's also, I think there's different clues depending on if
it was only
you lose or if you make the merge.
Yeah.
Because there's different.
Well, they knew this one would have the countdown.
Yeah.
This was the merge one, and they knew he had the countdown, so they had to do a quick one. If he had days to figure it out and do it, whatever, like it would have been different, I think.
Yeah, like Tiffany had to decipher something in a different language. Like you can't put that when you're making it to the merge.
Danica here says it had to be at least 30 minutes, right? I mean, each tribe said you have 10 minutes to pack, then the travel time. And listen, Danica travels a lot. She's in a car a lot, so she'll know that when you're on a boat, she's a travel expert. And when you're on a boat, there is no congestion. There's no traffic that you have to deal with. So you can take the shortest route.
They are pretty far though, right? Like I've heard it in the past that they're like half an hour boat ride each time.
It can be
distance,
I've heard that in Fiji, depending on which beach you're on, it can take around 45 minutes to get to a challenge. Yeah.
Yeah.
which is
The
that's
thing
a long
that I
time.
think the thing that gets me the most is the fact that I've heard from players and not from the US Survivor side of it, but from Australian Survivor, that sometimes when you go on these boat rides, 2 challenges and things like that, they blindfold you. And that to me is like the thing that would probably be the most weird is like you're getting blindfolded in between going from one location to the other location. Like I just can't imagine that would be a fun thing if you're out on a boat
Yeah,
and you're hitting waves and you don't even know when you're hitting a wave.
that's scary. Yeah.
Yeah, which is why we've had people injured on boat rides before, you know, in Survivor. One person even medevaced in the past as well on David versus Goliath. So we've got Kiwi saying, yes, something like that sounds right in regards to the time. It's Hunter and Venus people love. I'm a bit lower on Venus after this episode. I was on the Venus train up until this episode, but I feel like she is just doing too much. And the more I see of her now and the more they're giving her airtime, I feel like she would be someone, if I was out there, her personality would grate on me a little bit. Plus, I'm a guy, so I know she would want to vote me out. So I wouldn't be able to want to work with her, Jake, at all. Like, she was very, let's get the guys out early at the merge.
Yeah, definitely. I think, as a TV character, she's very entertaining, just her
100%.
Bluntness and just like how she just is like tearing everybody apart, calling them stupid, calling them idiots, which honestly, she's got some good points about who they're voting out, who they decide to vote out at this tribal council. But yeah, for sure, if I was out there playing with her, I'd be like Tevin, like, get this girl out. I'm not
she's very different to most of your generation, Jake, to talk about this. Like, she's 24 years old, right? So she's Gen Z. And most Gen Zs are all about like, and maybe that's why people like her so much, because like the more I think about it, as a character, she's kind of a little bit villainous in some ways. Like, imagine someone like her playing the game back in Australian Outback. She would have been the Jerry Manthe.
Oh my gosh,
to some degree.
She's exactly, she's totally like Jerry. Yeah, I think
back then people didn't like it, and now I feel like because everybody was so cutthroat back in the day, now the culture has shifted to a point where everybody cares so much about each other's feelings and making sure everybody's okay. And she's just like, I don't care. This is what it is, and people find it refreshing, probably to a certain degree.
Yeah, Gen Z, it's interesting their opinions on reality TV, because they love people like Venus or Chaos Cass, people that just tear into other people just without a care in the world, But obviously they're more, I guess, inclusive and sensitive, I guess.
We don't need it on our reality TV. We need.
That's why they like it, though. Yeah, it's TV.
Yeah, right.
It's not real life. Like they can watch Jersey Shore and they can watch. Oh, that's not Gen Z. That's Boomer.
Yeah, come on.
Giving your age away.
Did you know that's still going on?
Yeah. That's why I said it.
Yeah, I was like, what? I
don't be getting on to watching it though.
Yeah.
Venus. You know what my take on Venus is, and I'm gonna come off controversial here, and I hope I don't put too many people off. She is young and she's beautiful, and she's used to getting what she wants in life. So she goes, she just says, like, she doesn't get told no a lot, I reckon. So she's very blunt, very forward, and a lot of people will give her what she wants. And when you run into Survivor, that's not gonna. Real life stuff doesn't always work on an island with that many people. Those type of people playing a game. I think that her bluntness is probably part of her being the way she looks, being young, and being. I think she's a data analyst or something. So she's very numbers, very like, you know what I mean? There's not the interaction, the salesmanness of Chris getting people on side, the negotiating, the persuasiveness, blah, blah, blah. She's facts, numbers.
We don't need to be talking too much about that, on this podcast. Don't blow up my spot if I ever was to go out and play this game. But I get where you're coming from. I will say one thing, though. I think her backstory had her like she's first generation immigrant to the country as well. I could be wrong here, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. But sometimes just coming from like that immigrant kind of background, it makes you really hardworking as well, and you take the bull by the horn. So it could also just be cultural for her and the way that she approaches things. And in life, that is really good, because a lot of the times people don't get ahead in life because they're too afraid to take the shot or to stand out, and they just sort of go into the background. But on Survivor, I've spoken to enough players of Australian Survivor and Survivor South Africa before, where the one theme that continues to be true is that if you're your strengths out there becomes your weaknesses, and your weaknesses becomes your strength. So your strength might be, you're normally you're a young, beautiful girl. You can get people on side with you pretty quickly. You're also someone that grabs the bull by the horns and you move forward. But in Survivor, that can be seen as a threat, So, so it's always interesting how things like this works out. But one thing, like you said earlier, it's just she's dragging people along. There's a reason that no one wanted to work with her in the first one. Like, she's not like, hey, how do you feel about this? What do you think about this idea? For anybody who wants to understand that level of gameplay, we had a great interview with Eden Porter from Australian Survivor, who spoke about the subtleties of getting other people on board to think that it's their plan instead of you pushing that plan too much. So I think that's something that she's lacking, and that could just be because she's young, Kuna.
I mean, we've seen something from Venus, at least, that I don't think I've ever seen in the history of Survivor, is that there's a 2-person vote and they come to you and go, it's between you and Mariah, but don't worry, it's Mariah. And she goes, that's stupid. Don't vote for Mariah. Let's get someone else out completely. Like, she had the heat off her. It's between her and Mariah with, here's the news, here's the info. She's like, that's dumb. Don't do that. Like, it was
And
so
then we got
weird.
a iconic confessional or moment from Q where he's like, wait, V's mad about Bone Mo? V's mad about Bone Mo? And it's just like he's speaking so fast they had to subtitle it. I was like, was that a different language? What was V's mad about Bone Mo?
JC, Venus is Emily
I
Dahl
want
to
to see
10.
tongue twisters.
I don't know. It's interesting. It'd be interesting to have
They're
Venus and Emily on the same tribe.
different. They're very different. Yeah,
I agree. There was another good comparison here where Gabe says, I think she's just blunt like Eliza and Courtney Yates. I think Eliza, I could see a bit of Eliza in her, definitely. And Eliza was quite young the first time she played as well. Daryl says that if Venus makes it to the end, I can't see people voting for her. Yeah, it'll be interesting. Venus is Canadian. That's interesting. I didn't know that at all. At Toronto.
Not very Canadian vibes.
Nah. Not Canadian at all. I feel like she should be from New York or something like that. I think she'd fit in over there. But read into that what you may. But I've heard like New York's pretty cutthroat. So I think she'd do pretty well over there. But yeah, interesting, very interesting, sort of seeing the opening parts here, because when they get all to the beach, Q's trying to get all of these different alliances back together, right? And he's talking to them. Mariah doesn't know what's going on. Suddenly he doubts Tim. Hunter and Q immediately seem like they're hitting it off. I think Q, Hunter, Tiffany, the likes of Tevin, that's a very strong call in the game. I don't know if Tim maybe shot himself a little bit in the foot here by being a little bit indecisive at the merge, Jake, because he had a really good position coming into the merge where he could have played both sides, but by holding a lot of information too close to his chest and not actually sharing information here, you can't go to the end with 5 people. And now you're going to have 4 after this vote. I actually think Tim may have sort of played himself out of a spot here in this 6-person alliance.
Yeah, I think this whole situation with Tim shows just how complex Survivor can be, because obviously he's not wrong for wanting to keep his options open and, like you said, kind of play both sides. But the way he went about it is just not the right way. First of all, he doesn't even tell Maria about what happened at the journey. Second of all, Maria's not even really his closest ally. It's Ben, and then Tim isn't at all actually Maria's closest ally. She was considering voting out Tim if they didn't think he had an immunity idol. So yeah, and it just the Sega as a whole was pretty. They didn't really play this episode very well, this vote very well, with just not telling them anything or not really giving anything. It's like, okay, you guys are sort of expecting us to work with you, but what do we need something in return. It's got to be reciprocal,
Name for a name. Name for a name.
Exactly. Yeah.
But you just don't say name for a name. You don't come out and demand it. You just
right. Yeah, they both,
Yeah, Tim wants his cake and some more. Danica saying, Tim messed up. I hope he didn't bring Mariah down with him, especially since she knows about the alliance. Now she'll spill the beans to her people. Not a smart move. I feel like Mariah is someone that has some game to her. Like, I feel like she could possibly make those connections and get more trust from the Qs and the Tevins to a certain degree. But yeah, I don't know why. I just feel like she's got some legs still in the game. Mariah's closest to Charlie, then Ben, then Tim, she basically said. But Maria seemed open to this idea. She liked the idea of having options in the game. So I'm kind of interested to know where she would go if, her line starts dropping like flies. Like, I feel like she would jump on that bandwagon pretty quickly to see if she can get a couple more days in the game. But a lot of conversations happening here. I found it very interesting to see the dynamics and the camp in the early stages. And then we go into what is going to be the challenge. And at the challenge, did you find it annoying, like I did, Kahuna, that everybody was pretending like they didn't know what was going to happen at the challenge? Like, oh wow, only one of us is going to be at merge. Oh wow, only half of us is going to eat. Like, this is literally what we've been doing for 6 seasons now. Why did we need to act like we didn't know what was happening here, Kahuna?
I mean, Soda's reaction felt genuine. Like they were like, "What?" Like, I was, and then she had to Jeff. Okay, please continue, and they left it in the edit and stuff. So yeah, I don't know, mate. Like, they're all fans, so maybe
all of them are
maybe
actually
just like
actual fans. They maybe haven't watched since season 40.
There's no way they do it for 6 seasons in a row. Like, they have to change something at least once, right? Like,
they're like us.
Five is enough.
They're like, surely not again. Yeah.
Yeah. Jeff, are you new? Kiwi too obvious. Yeah. Tell me, Soda being told what game is this? Yeah, like what? I was just shocked at how shocked they were about the fact that we're doing the exact same thing that we've been doing for the last 6 seasons. But the draw, Jake, was interesting, to say the least. Like, this was probably one of the most lopsided draws we've ever seen in Survivor, right?
Yeah, I mean, from the get-go, it's like, okay, we already know what's going to happen. I mean, it's going to take a miracle for this scrawny tribe or this scrawny group to beat the big boys,
5-9.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, it wasn't bad enough that we were all looking out to see which tribe Hunter was going to be on, because we knew whichever tribe Hunter is on is most likely to win, because he's like a beast that puzzles. He's a beast that doing all of these obstacle course races. He probably knows the most optimal way to go through everything on the challenges. The one thing I will give them a shout out for, and it's something that Kahuna pointed out last week, is that they're starting to add a subtle change to the challenges, which we didn't have from the beginning of the season. But by forcing different people to do the puzzle, Kahuna, here again at the end, it really does even the playing field a little bit, where you can't have your weakest link sit out of the clutch position at the end, which this is a positive change that Survivor US is making that I hope that they continue to expand on for future seasons as well.
Yeah, huge difference maker, where it relies on the entire team and not just Hunter. He obviously still played a part. He got the final most complex section and destroyed it. And we saw Tevin going, Hunter's amazing at puzzles, which is such a red flag if you're Hunter. Like, he is not managing threat levels at all. He's just lucky that the guy that pointed out is his number one, who shouldn't necessarily be pointing it out to the rest of the tribe.
You don't need to manage your threat level if you just win everything.
That's true. He's got an idol in his pocket. There's 5 episodes left. Like, he could easily win out here, right? Like, who's taking him out in the challenge with an idol left? If he's got 1 spare now. Like, he can lose once. Is he going to lose twice? Like, I can't see him losing twice to these people.
Well, it's funny. It's with there being so many people. I don't know how to put this in a very polite way, because I want to come across as rude. I know that Survivor 46 cast is going to come across and Hunter's down, but there isn't that much high level of competitive people that are playing this season. So, I mean, we could be surprised, and, Liz could just be winning everything. Maybe she was just lowering her threat level in this challenge when she was the anchor for her tribe going through the nets. But, she could come from nowhere and suddenly start winning some things. Who knows? But this is what he's been training for his whole life, is doing all these. And he's not like a Carson who just does the puzzles. Like, he did a lot of the other things as well. And he's physically extremely capable. So I see Hunter as a massive threat. And now that they've got the Meat Shield Alliance going into the merge, this is the perfect situation for someone like Hunter Jake coming into the merge, because he's got strength around him with Q and Tevin and those guys.
Yeah, this is, I mean, first of all, a very good episode for for Nami in general. Convincing Yanu to take out Sega, which I think was the right play. I mean, they just were too, at least to their appearances, were way too tight knit. With Q, Kenzie, and Tiffany, it was pretty clear. Like you gotta stay with Nami because you can always take out Venus. Nami will always be willing to eat that one of their own. But Sega, they are a tight group from what they're being told. It was a unanimous vote last tribal. Unanimous vote. So it's like, so of course that's good for Hunter because he's now aligned himself with not only Yanu, but Q, who is, not a slouch at challenges himself. He's not going to totally take the target. Okay, you disagree?
Kuna has got razor focus on him for his BMT. So Kahuna's been going off in the last couple of weeks saying that Q doesn't clutch it out at the end when it's needed. Yeah.
That's fair.
Gift's been better than him in challenges. We saw Mariah pass him in the net today. This week, I'm like, he's got all the skills, but he's not shown it so far.
But Mariah's a wipeout champion. Like we didn't know that Mariah was a wipeout champion.
Yeah, come on. You can't fault Q there. I mean, he's going up against a wipeout champion. What do you expect to happen? No, but you're right. I mean, it's been brought up a couple times about how Q, he doesn't have that clutch gene in him, but I guess just by appearances and by just convention, I guess Survivor convention, just seeing Q's body type, and age group, you're like, oh yeah, that's a threat. So Hunter aligning himself with him is good, very good.
Yeah. Dolores says, even put Hunter in a competition he has not built or practiced, how would he do? I would still put money on him. I think he could do extremely well. And apparently there's some recent tea about Carson on puzzles.
Yeah, I know about that.
Yeah, let us know.
Oh, maybe that's why they're doing it? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Basically, there's this guy that was before Carson's season had been making puzzles, kind of like Russell Muscle does. His name's Outplay.
Right.
Yeah. So he saw, Carson get on the show, and he was like, "Oh, I could partner with Carson, and it would be mutually beneficial for both of us." Where I'd give him some cut of the sales, and then he could help me promote it. So they had a lunch in person, and Carson apparently was asking him all these questions about like, oh, which puzzle is like your best selling one, this, and that. And you can kind of guess. After their talk, Carson blocked him on all social media and took his ideas and made it into his own business.
Listen,
so
faults on you for trusting a Survivor player.
For
Let's be honest. There's someone that goes and plays Survivor,
You know,
that's all outplaying, and outlasting the competition.
We can all, I think we can all agree what Carson has done is legal.
Well, it's morally wrong, but it's legal.
But very unethical. Very unethical. And you know, when you're not in Survivor, you know, when this is sort of like this is more, it's real. You know, that's sort of a real thing. You know, Survivor's just a game. But so hearing about that was pretty disappointing.
Especially when you look at Carson and he's like, you know, the Boy Scout, he looks like the Boy Scout type. You didn't expect something like that from him.
Yeah,
he's going to be a very wealthy man one day. I'm predicting.
You think that during that
starting that this early, he's like that, and he's got his smarts. He's going to make money.
I mean, and it's also like
not in the right way necessarily, but he'll make money.
Carson's already sold merch. He's already a freaking NASA engineer. Like, you don't need any more money, man. Come on. Like, but I think that
especially I hate it when you're taking. I hate it when and I'll just read what Daryl said here really quickly. Never trust a Survivor player unless it's Tarzan. Tarzan played over in Australian Survivor as well. So, you know, but so I think that, you know, for me, the worst thing is when you take advantage of fans, like people who looked up to you because you played the game. And we know that other players have done that in the past as well. And we've been all of us have been pretty vocally against it when that news came out. So not good, but I don't want to talk about someone that's not playing this season for too long. We all agree, probably not the greatest look for him, to be honest. But going into the challenge, the underdog team really did put up a fight here in this specific challenge. Like, I mean, like you said, Mariah did extremely well. Most of the girls did extremely well. Liz definitely, like, I still don't know. Like, the whole time I'm like, why is she on this season? Like, whose spot did she take on the season? I know it's very rude to think that way, but it's just like, she hasn't brought value to me yet.
I know why she wanted to go on the season.
Why?
That's 17 other people she can add to her email marketing list. Like, that's, you know,
she's got all the money. She doesn't need it.
Yeah.
She's like, I mean, come on. Like, let's be real. Liz is in the final 3. Like, at this point. I mean, unless you know, Hunter gets it going and he just can't be taken out, so they're like, oh, let's just take out Liz, you know, just weaken Hunter. But yeah, we're not getting. I mean, did she even have a confessional this episode? I mean, I don't even remember her saying anything about anything. No. So
she's irrelevant in the edit at this point.
Well,
so
they knew that Mariah would be the episode boost, so they couldn't confuse by putting both of them on the screen. You're like,
way too much.
No. Yeah,
way too much for the viewer. It's just too confusing.
That's fair. That's fair. But yeah, a very good fight right until the end. That it came down to the wire on the puzzle, which was surprising. I was really impressed by the teamwork that the ladies showed with
I was
Charlie.
Impressed by the boulder. Getting up that boulder to me is impossible. Like, I'm looking at it like, nope, we're done. I could move that boulder before I climb it. Right.
And I want to say something about Soda. I want to say,
great.
And I want to say something about Soda because, you know, I've seen, like, again, I'm not on socials all that often because I've got a very demanding job. Normally, you know, I'm tapped out by the end of the day, so I can't be sitting on socials all the time. But I did see some people going after her for, like, basically body shaming online in the pre-merge part when it came to Twitter, and which was just so sucky of people to do in the first place. And I just want to put it out there, like, Soda has not disappointed in the challenges. Like, she is coming to play. Like, you can hate her for other things. I don't know why. Like, she's just someone that's very excited and wants to play the game hard, and she's got a social game. But one thing I will say about her, like, this episode, she was not holding her team back. Like, she was, like, the team also did a great job, obviously getting her up and pulling her up, but she also showed some real strength, like pulling Charlie up on her own and things like that. Like, she's an asset to whichever team she's in. So shout out to Soda, and it's really sucky that people still go that low to comment on people's physical appearances and things like that. I just feel like it's uncalled for. Make it about the game, not about something that is outside of the game. But overall, great performance, right, Jake, from Soda in the challenge, and also the rest of that group.
Oh yeah, for sure. That entire group. I mean, like I said earlier, when I saw how the groups had been divided, I was just like, oh, okay, yeah, just skip the challenge, basically, you know. But no, they made it interesting.
Yeah, and I don't want to add to the flame. Like, I'm not going to be a hypocrite. Like, I haven't been the biggest fan of this cast, and I think and it's not because of them, who they are as people. To make that clear, it's gameplay, and it's what they're bringing to the TV show. I haven't necessarily thought that they've been the most entertaining cast that I've seen, and we've also got to remember that they're coming in with a very high bar because last season had the best cast of the new era. So when you've got a season with probably the most entertaining cast, and then you follow that, it's very hard to keep the bar that high. So just in hindsight, it's going to drop somewhat, you know. But I just don't condone people going after people personally, and for things that's not game related. To me, it really doesn't sit right with me. Kiwi says, yes, I think she did an amazing job. Soda has done better than some of the other girls. Girlfriend can hold her own. I could see Soda going to the end. And then I don't look at social media during the season as it ruins my enjoyment of the game. Yeah, 100%. Every now and again, obviously, Kiwi, because I podcast and I put clips up on different platforms and things like that. In those moments, I will like have a quick browse, see, what's happening. But I don't live on that space. We've got some fellow guests in the podcast room there with you, Jake, coming over to say hello to you. I don't know if you noticed.
Going on?
You've got some guests.
Oh yeah. They come in and out. I know.
Yeah. Are they Survivor fans? Do they watch Survivor with you?
Oh yeah, every week.
Yeah. They're like, why do you put us through this every single season? We've
unanimous final tribal winner right there.
Yep.
Dolores says, I'm kind of embarrassed to say I've been comparing this cast to the Survivor Australian cast that I saw. Sorry, it's not been fair, but just can't help it. And I think that is also a problem for people who watch more than one franchise. It is a problem because you will do that comparison at times. But again, a lot of what happens in New Survivor is almost not even the cast's fault. It's just production and the way that they've put the show together and not innovating. But we don't want to go down that rabbit hole too much on this podcast. We're keeping it 75% positive today, like 75% positive on the podcast. Overall, we do obviously see the boys winning. Tiff made the right choice. It was really a non-choice by choosing the boys for with obviously Kenzie. Kenzie lucked out, and with that, like Kahuna, like who would have guessed coming into the merge that Yanu, the purple tribe, who had no luck this whole game, all three of them would be a part of this group that is safe going into the merge. Like it could not have worked out better for them coming into the merge.
Yeah, I mean, the people that say that, luck isn't part of the game, or if anyone makes that claim at all, like, holy crap. Like, we saw Yanu, as far as luck goes, getting put with Jelinski, Jess, and Banu as their 3 tribe members, and then to have the luck of not only the rocks here, but, like, just to end up all 3 and be in a position where they are the deciding vote overall, not only for the challenge, but just the luck of being that middle minority which can decide between the two. And yeah, like we've seen it work before. Like last season happened the same way with the yellow tribe that was like kind of decimated at the start, but they become the swing vote because the small tribe format, again, only 2 or 3 can make a massive difference when you've only got 5 on each side or whatever. So the luck has come back to Yanu, and although we did see maybe there's going to be some cracks there as well. So I'm excited by the fact that Yanu's getting their come up, their rise, they're on the up. But it has potential pitfalls too, because when you're in the middle and you've got that power, hey, it goes to the absolute power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Well, we've seen a couple of seasons now where the minority tribe gets into this merge situation and they find their way to the end and they win. So, if I was a player to play this game, I would be looking out for that and saying, we can't let these 3 people come into the merge and dictate what the 2 tribes are doing that kind of dominated most of the season. So hopefully they're wise to it and they keep an eye on it. But with Q, really, I think doing like, I do think that, yes, Q is playing hard again, but Q is a big reason why Yanu's in a good position right now. And we have to give him credit. Like he's done the work. Who would have thought that bro moment that he had with Tim and Hunter would put him in a good position coming into the merge and really help with solidifying some allegiances going into the merge, So Tiff has even taken a little bit of a back step to Q in the edit this episode, which Tiff has always, I felt like, been more of the driver in that alliance. But Q really did a lot of the driving this episode. But let's not forget, Jake, Tiff's also still got an idol in the game. One of the few idols that are still in play at this stage. Yeah.
Idolicia, that was great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I mean that if those 4 Tevin, Hunter, Q, and Tiffany, that's 2 idols that they have there. That's pretty crazy. And Tevin's got an extra vote as well. Yeah, so I'm trying to remember. So yeah, Sega, there's no idol there because Gem got voted out with it. Right? It's just those 2.
Dolores is asking, okay, tell me, do you think this Onion Alliance is going to work? That's very Big Brother-esque. I think that for some other reason, I feel like it is. I'm just doubtful of the Tim situation. Like, even if they do get Tim in for a vote or 2, I think that there was enough cracks shown by Tim being hesitant to share information. And I think he came to the party very late to vote with them that I'm a bit worried for Tim and Mariah.
I'm going to tell you right now. I think Tim's gone next week.
You reckon he's in the very next episode? He's gone.
Could be. Yeah, I think it's very possible. I think that
Q takes things very personal, right?
He does for sure.
Pointing at the outfield, just calling his shot.
Literally calling my shot right there.
Yeah,
Tim gone. No, seriously, because I think that they're just like, we're just not going to deal with this guy. I mean, like, why should, because I think they're going to get too scared that, like, if we start sharing anything with this guy, he's just going to go blab to Charlie and Ben, you know, or even, you know, I don't even know that they really trust Maria. I just think that the core that has been established is Q, Hunter, Tiffany, and Tevin. I think it's those four, or I guess mainly Q and Hunter, I think are pretty solidified. Tim is just not there.
I don't
And I
see Q
think-
going. I'm just putting it out there. I know people think Q's like. I feel like Q's got, even though he's
I don't see
playing,
it either.
even though he's playing a bit aggressive, and he kind of came back wanting to change the vote to Mariah because Mariah didn't play ball with him when they spoke. I think it was at the water well or somewhere when they were out walking. And I think people maybe look at Q and say, wow, this guy is quite sporadic, but I still feel like he's got the connections, and he was upfront and honest about wanting to work with the Tevin and the Hunters of this world, that I just don't see them letting Q go yet.
Yeah,
like, I think he can be
exactly.
disposable in a couple of votes maybe, but it's too early to
I
do
think
that.
I completely agree. I think that Q's playstyle might start becoming pretty grating. You know, honestly, his playstyle and Venus's playstyle, not that far off. Confrontational, demanding of information.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, like they're pretty, you know, and you know, I don't want to star anything, but you know, Venus has been going pretty hard defending herself, mainly saying that you know, the others just don't like that she's a strong woman, you know, and I won't say anything about that, but you know, I feel like the Q and Venus are playing
you get
pretty
back
similarly.
what you put out. I think you get back what you put out. And Venus has been putting.
She's the only woman on this season.
Yeah,
she's the only woman on there, right? That's strong and powerful, and you know all that.
Yeah.
Like
Maria. Maria's clearly not strong and powerful. Maria's a very beta female. You know, Maria. You know, so like, what is she looking about? Like Tiv's not a strong woman. Clearly, it's only Venus that's a strong.
I just mean like strong. I guess strong opinions, strong.
That's what I'm saying.
More aggressive. You know, I think it is a bit more. Q, it wasn't really brought up, but I feel like, you know, his conversation, I guess it was brought up slightly with Mariah, that, you know, he was just like, who's your favorite player? You know, like very just like, tell me this.
Yeah, he was very interrogated, like interrogating.
Didn't really tell her anything. You know, it was mainly just like extracting information from Mariah. I think that Tevin and Hunter are too powerful.
I agree. That's why I think Q is
to let him go. But I think maybe if they the power starts to shift away, Q could totally be gone for sure.
Yeah, I definitely. That's
sure. I see a path this week actually with
for Q to go.
Like,
because they're getting split up.
Yeah, this is why I've left the comment up there, because I wanted to bring it up. Georgette pointed out it's going to be two people going, so they're going to have two tribes. So there definitely is and this is why. Again, another reason, and we're trying to keep it 75% positive, but why are we doing this? Like, why are we splitting tribes? We're in a merge. We just want them all to be voting, and for some gameplay to happen for a couple of votes here. Now we're splitting them into two tribes again so that we can kind of control who gets power. And Jeff has mentioned this before, it's because he's trying to prevent anybody from really being able to have an alliance that can run to the end. But that takes away from strategic gameplay, and it brings a larger element of luck into the game. So yes, there is an unlucky scenario where Q ends up in a tribe without Tevin and Hunter, or in a group without Tevin and Hunter, where he suddenly becomes vulnerable. Maybe he's there with Kenzie and a bunch of the Segas, right?
Even with them, like we saw in the preview, Tiff and Kenzie having that conversation. Q thinks he's in charge. He's not, right? That's just one little hint. But then you put that together with Venus, her rant about we have to get a man out. It's too many women. We're going to get dominant. If they are smart as they see Hunter, they see Q. They know what's going to happen in these challenges. Hunter's going to win. Q's going to be vulnerable. The women go, let's do something here. Like, we can't let them dominate us for the rest of the thing. I could see a path there. I don't know if they're going to do it, but I could see it happening because they should. You know what I mean? Like, they should not let Hunter and Q keep going further in this game, especially when Hunter's as good as he is and Q is trying to control as much as he is. We saw people going, Venus is throwing too hard. Venus is playing hard. We've got to get her out. Q is playing just as hard, like Jake said. They'll see it.
No. 100%. But I think that you said there is a way, even if he's not with Tevin and Q, but if he's with Tevin and Hunter, if he's in a split group with Tevin and Hunter, that's 3 of the
Yeah.
6.
Yeah.
So he's
true.
not going in that situation.
Yeah,
I just don't
yeah,
see it. The only situation where he's going is if he lands with a bunch of women in one section or with a bunch of the Segas. And again, that is because of the fact that they're splitting them in groups right now. I don't like that. But I do agree he's definitely playing very hard. But I think the people that he's playing with, like the Tiffs of this world, probably wouldn't want to let him go. Kenzie, I think, is open to letting him go, but Kenzie's quite close to Tiff. Kenzie also in this episode was talking about the fact that the 3 of us are now in a good position. We can move forward in the game. Like I feel like Kenzie is open to keeping Q for a bit. Like I just think that for a lot of people to let Q go right now, it's too early. It's too early in their game, especially if you don't trust Tim, especially if you don't trust Mariah. Like, what are you doing? Are you suddenly going to go trust other people in that group that you've never spoken to, like a Charlie or like a Liz? Like not Liz. Who's the other person? Ben. Like, are you going to go there? Like, I don't know. I just don't think,
man.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Let's see what people are saying here. The trifecta of Survivor. Favorite players are King George, Parvati, and Caroline. What a combination! What a combination! And there's some great players there for sure. Gabe saying the double tribal council is usually one good vote and boring one, so expect that next episode. Yeah. Danica says I can see Kenzie flipping on Q. That's kind of what we've been saying. Kenzie probably is a likelihood. Q's not in charge, nowhere near it. No, but they're sort of indulging at the moment.
He's trying to be though.
Yeah. He's the coach. He's the coach. He needs to tell them how to vote. Hello says double troubles are the best episode. The Nasira boot was iconic in 41. Erica proving herself and winning immunity was powerful because she was unassuming. Listen, I think it's not bad when it doesn't happen every single season. It's the fact that they're doing it consistently.
This one specifically, they've been doing well before 41. Too. Like they did it in 40, they did 39, 38, 37, 30. I think they did 36. It's been going on for this is like 11th season in a row or something that they've done this. So yeah.
It's time to move on. It's time to try something different. I just feel like again, like we just get stuck into these habits when it comes to like whatever we're doing on Survivor. And I'd like for them to keep it fresh. Hello says, I hope we get an auction, a key hunt thing like they did in 43. Cody found it, and 44, Heidi did. It affected the split tribal. My understanding is we are not getting an auction, at least. I think Jeff's already confirmed that.
No.
Hello says, Charlie reminds me of...
They can't do it. It's too hard for them.
Yeah.
They can't get a podium. It's too much.
Yeah. Charlie reminds me of that wealthy kid in class that thinks he's too good for us and hangs out only with white cheerleaders.
That's very specific.
It's very specific. Yeah. I don't know the second part at all, but definitely I can see how he reminds you of a wealthy kid. He kind of has a little bit of
Charlie seems like a nice guy though.
Yeah, he does. Charlie. He does.
Yeah.
Anunes says, hi, Chris, Kahuna, and Jake. Couldn't join earlier, but we'll watch it in full over the weekend. Welcome. Nice. Always good to have you on board. Even if you're watching it later on, leave some comments with your thoughts and we'll respond to it. Hello saying, and even though you can't connect with him, that's Charlie's vibes. Really? I don't know. I don't know. I don't think Charlie's done that much that's been offensive at this stage, or like the only thing with Charlie I feel like is that he
really likes Taylor Swift.
He really likes Taylor Swift. And
he's good at cha-cha. He's good at salsa.
He actually was very good at dancing. I was surprised. Yeah.
Really? Like, do you like those moves? I don't think he's got any rhythm.
No, well, I mean, listen. I guess anything for a white boy like me, I guess anything above average looks good to me.
Yeah. I don't think he's winning, so you can dance the next season. Like if he's going on it,
right? Yeah.
Scott saying in our app interview, Jim said that Q said that Jeremy was his favorite player.
When did
I can see that?
Yeah. When did Gem and Q
interact?
This
not on the. It's obviously an off.
I see.
Make the cut.
So
I would imagine.
Q, Jeremy was a really good player, so that's really concerning. I think
that's his favorite player.
Yeah, that's his favorite player. Do you
Get rid of
remember?
him.
You remember Jeremy, right? He was really good.
Yeah.
So I think Q's got to go. I can see it in his eyes.
Yeah. All right, so obviously they end up having to come up with a name here, and Mariah's going to be the person who ultimately is going to go. Like, let's talk about it a little bit. Where did things go wrong for Mariah? Like, Kahuna, like if you were in Mariah's situation going into the merge, like obviously we've got the comfort of our own home. We're well fed, we're thinking at full capacity here. But let's say you're out there, like what lessons are there to be learned for future people that are going to go play the game with Mariah's situation going into the merge?
Understand where you are. Like, she just came off a unanimous blindside. She didn't even have one single person that got blindsided with her. It was just her left, right, against the rest of her tribe. And you said they did a really good job of trying to bring her back in, and she didn't see that. She needs to realize, I am at the bottom. I voted against Ben, who's probably the most popular person on this tribe. I'm kind of screwed right now. And she didn't make any attempts until final tribal council. Like, that's the weirdest spot to do it, especially when you've got this time to start. Like, she's almost the opposite of Venus. Venus said, I'm at the bottom of my tribe. And yes, she went very hard, but she started realizing, I'm at the bottom. I'm making moves. I'm going to make connections. She went way too hard where she went, I'm now the king. I have all the power. Whereas Mariah was like, I'm not going to do a single thing until final tribal and say that I lied to you, Q. Which is like a weird flex. Like, she could have been laying that foundation constantly with Q the entire way. She had a one-on-one conversation with the man to lay out what you need and help. And she couldn't know this, but we know he's receptive to desperation and begging and like pleading for help.
Yeah.
Like there's opportunities there, and she didn't take any of them. Yeah, he enjoys it. He's like, please come to me. I will coach you. And he took
that's literally
anyway,
what you need to do with Q. It's just be like, listen, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm so lost in this game. I just need someone to show me the way, And Q would be like,
there needs to be some. I will be so impressed if somebody on this season starts talking to Q and realizes that and is like, whoa, like I think I found my in with this guy. Like I can just sort of pretend like that I'm this helpless little player in this game, and like he will protect me. Like that would be a baller move if we see that this season.
Yeah.
And then they just take him out at the end.
Yes, exactly.
Like brutal blindside. You've trained me too well. The student has now overtaken the master on the way to the end, and then Q would vote for them. If he's like, you know what? Yeah. I would not have been at the end, Q, if it wasn't for your guidance throughout the game. You trained me how to be a good survivor player, and ultimately, that involved having to take you out to the end.
Yeah, exactly.
It would have been great.
Cater to the ego. Cater to the ego, man. That's all it is.
Yeah. I don't think anybody would play that game. But yeah, it was sad to see Mariah going this way. It was sad for her not to have a fighting chance because we all knew she was in the outs from the start, but it just seemed like she wasn't aware of her own sort of, I guess, position in the game going into the merge, which she should have been. Ultimately, one redeeming thing for her is that she did play her shot in the dark, even though it was unsuccessful. She clearly knew that the votes were coming her way, which that's always, at least now for new players, Jake, you've got a way to say, I knew I was going home, which looks like a bit of a flex. Even if it doesn't work out, at least you can say I wasn't completely blindsided by it. The edit can't make you look dumb for not knowing because you played the shot in the dark.
Yep. You're right. And I want to say, what do you guys think? Even though Mariah definitely could have played this so much better, but don't you agree though with kind of what Venus was saying that like, why take her out? Like, not only because she was
this comment literally.
Right. Exactly.
So Nunes is saying, wasn't Mariah relatively weak? Why not vote out someone who is more a threat before the merge? So you go on and talk to that.
Venus, I'm not gonna defend how Venus played, but I think her idea to vote out Charlie, or even vote out Ben. I mean, Ben sort of seems like the glue of Sega.
Social threat.
Yeah, like that guy. Everyone loves him. Mariah said it. Charlie said it. Maria said it. Everyone says like this guy is the most likable person I've ever met. It seemed like they were just laser focused on her when there were plenty of other options from Sega. Like, by all means, taking out any Sega is not going to be a bad move. Weaken them as much as possible. But like Mariah seemed like probably the worst
least
choice
threatening,
of the
yeah.
three.
Yeah.
Even like even ignoring the fact that she was left out of the vote, I think that she just wasn't strong of a player.
Yeah, it was
Aubrey.
bizarre. I just
She
think
likes Aubrey, man.
yeah,
But
and I
she
think
liked Aubrey, so yeah.
I think this is what it basically showed, and this is like, we've taken the Mickey out of Q for coaching her, but what he said was still true. If you listen to what he said, it's like you had an opportunity prior to going into tribal council to let us know about this.
Oh yeah.
Now we don't know if we can trust you because timing in Survivor is everything. When you're under the pump and you're potentially going home, you will say anything to save your life. So suddenly your word and what you say become less credible. So if she went into the merge being like, hey, on the down low, I'm completely on the outs here. Like I'm in trouble. I've got no home. I need to find people to work with. That was clearly the move. And she didn't do it because she tried to stay loyal to the people who betrayed her because, again, not taking anything away from Tim and, the rest of the Seagulls, they did a really good job at convincing her that she was never the target and they want to work with her to the point where she was rather going to be with the devil she knows than the devil she doesn't know. But the timing was off. So going into into the tribal council and then letting people know, again, I think to have these live tribal councils, it doesn't happen as often as we think. Like a lot of the decision was already made going into that tribal council of where the vote was going to go. And it was just a little bit too late from her end. Totally agree. But they had no idea that Mariah wasn't the mastermind of that group, because Sega didn't give them anything.
Yeah.
Like they
Yeah,
were
yeah.
tight-lipped.
It's
Well,
true.
Sega gave them Mariah, right? Like at
Mm.
the wedding table, like reward. Didn't Ben
Yeah.
put her out there and then Tim backed it
Finally,
up?
after
finally.
after
True,
hours
you're
and
right.
hours, yeah. So that's true.
Yeah.
And
if
that just
because
yeah.
they gave nothing else, they gave no information. They've been playing their cards close to the chest the whole time and being the vibe tribe.
But she annoyed
that
Q.
small thing was enough, and that was
so
it.
they were going to.
because-
So
yeah.
they were going to change it. They were going to change it
Yep.
to Venus based on that. They were like, okay, let's do a Venus rather because Mariah's maybe on the outs, and then Mariah's like, oh no, and that's another thing she did wrong. Like when your name's not up, but you're one or two possibilities, go with it. Like 2 more days
Yep.
in the game, a lot can happen in 2 days, and she was like, you're not in a position where you can dictate, where you want to go. So yeah. It was interesting. It was an interesting end to the episode. I'm interested to see how the rest of the season is going to play out. Like, obviously next week with the split groups, I don't know how I feel about that going into it, but there is enough runway here now with 12 players all in the same tribe, 11x. It's just, again, refreshing to have more voting dynamics come into play. Suddenly the stories become a little bit more interesting from this point. Yeah, from this point onwards. It's almost, if we could just go back to having a two tribe format, maybe it'll be a little bit more entertaining in the future. But I'm definitely around to see what's going to happen. But yeah, thanks everybody for the live, and thanks for jumping in on the live, commenting, taking part, asking your questions. We will be back next week, and keep an eye on the channel. I always post when we go live in advance, so everybody can go and click on it to sort of see what time slots it's going to be in, because it may be an hour earlier than what we did this week. I'm not too sure. We've got daylight savings ending in Australia, so that's also going to throw us off a little bit. And we've got the challenge coming in next week as well. So we'll have 2 lives next Friday if you're in the US, or next Saturday if you're in Australia. One to cover all of Survivor 46 action in episode 7, and then one to talk about All-Stars, the Challenge All-Stars 4, which is going to kick off in this week coming as well. So plenty of content, as well as more interviews for Survivor Australia is in the pipeline as well, so keep an eye out for that. If you do like this channel, if you do like the content, and if you want to help us grow, please subscribe. It's absolutely free. It does help so much with our credibility when we reach out to former players or things like that. If we want to do some really interesting things, the more people we have subscribed to the channel, the more likely people are to actually want to partner with us, come onto the channel and do things with us. So we really appreciate the support, everyone. I hope everybody has a great weekend. But for now, grab your torches, head back to camp. We'll catch you guys next time.